Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into something that is just absolutely fascinating and honestly deeply personal. We're going to unpack the nonlinear, almost dreamlike musings of author Manav Kaul. Specifically, we're looking at a text of his that translates to "about you," neither a story nor a poem. We're going to explore his really quiet internal struggle with memory, the heavy, undeniable reality of grief, and how all of this led to his total rebellion against traditional storytelling. So if you've ever felt like your own past is, just kind of slipping through your fingers, this is definitely going to resonate with you.
Right off the bat, Cal hits us with this incredibly jarring philosophical question. What we don't remember, did we never live it? I mean, wow. It's a hook that instantly makes you question the reliability of your own mind. He writes about waking up with these tiny fragments of dreams that just instantly dissolve into the dark. And because of that, his past starts to feel less like a concrete factual timeline and way more like a hazy, completely unreliable dream. It really makes you wonder, if the memory is gone, does the experience itself just cease to exist?
You can actually see that feeling perfectly visualized right here. Notice how the figures just completely blur into the landscape. It captures Kaul's feeling of being this sheer, almost transparent silhouette in his own life. In the text, he talks about listening to his mother tell these incredibly vivid stories from his childhood. She remembers everything. It's like it happened yesterday to her. But for him, he feels like a ghost. He can't quite place himself in those very same memories. The boundaries between who he is, his fading memories, and the stories he's been told, they all just blur together, almost like fog rolling into the mountains.
Section 1. Dreams, Memories, and Illusions. Let's dive a little deeper into this.
This brings us to a really startling realization that Kaul has. Our past isn't some perfect museum of facts. Actually, it's just a patchwork of constructed images. He shares this deeply evocative anecdote where he remembers physical sensations perfectly. The dampness of the windows during the monsoon rain, the specific smell of doll tempering in the neighborhood, kites tangled up in wires. He says he can literally still taste these moments. But the people? They are entirely missing. He realizes the voices in his head, the ones trying to place people into those memories, aren't even his own. The past, as he discovers, is really just an empty stage.
Section 2. The Reality of Loss.
Now, while dreams and memories are super ethereal and hazy, Kaul suddenly takes us from that floating world and just drops us straight into the crushing, grounded reality of losing loved ones. Look at this empty, moonlit space. Kaul beautifully but tragically illustrates grief not just as being sad, but as a literal severing of a shared existence. He describes losing someone as walking on a bridge of connection that you built together, and when they die, their half of the bridge just collapses. You're left standing completely alone on the broken edge. You can see their shore, but you know for an absolute fact you can never cross over to it again.
This pain leads him to reflect deeply on Simone de Beauvoir's book, A Very Easy Death. She wrote, "If you love life, immortality is no consolation for death." Kaul relates this to watching the shifting colors of his own mother's face in the hospital, literally witnessing the slow, agonizing creep of mortality. Beauvoir's words just perfectly mirror his own profound realization about the permanence of grief. Death isn't just some natural fading away for him. It feels like an unjustifiable violation of the life you loved.
So, the crucial takeaway here is this immense, incredibly heavy burden of survival. Kaul quotes Beauvoir again, "When someone you love dies, you pay for the sin of outliving her with 1,000 piercing regrets." The person who is left behind is essentially forced to carry the weight of two lives, their own and the unlived life of the person who passed away. It's an unbearable load, and honestly, it forces a total reevaluation of how to even exist in the world moving forward.
Section 3. Escaping the Storyteller.
This overwhelming burden brought Kaul to a total breaking point. The raw, unfiltered pain of reality suddenly made traditional narrative fiction feel utterly fake to him. Think about it. The neat character arcs, the perfectly structured plots, they all felt like a massive lie compared to the chaotic, messy grief he was actually carrying around. With total exhaustion, he writes, "I wanted to run away from the man who writes." He literally bid farewell to his own writer persona. The act of crafting stories felt so incredibly false that he made a drastic choice. He stopped writing completely for nearly 3 years. Even when he was traveling, and that old familiar urge to write would tap him on the shoulder, he would just stubbornly ignore it, absolutely desperate to stay away from the illusion of fiction.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates the great divide in his mind. On one side, you have the heavy manufactured burden of fiction and traditional storytelling, where you're basically forcing life into a neat, controlled little box. But on the other side, you have authentic, transient moments, the unfiltered truth of raw reality,
captured exactly as it happens, without trying to neatly tie it up with a bow for an audience.
Section 4. Capturing the raw now.
He couldn't stay silent forever, though. Eventually, he found a completely new artistic process for dealing with the burden of memory, the loss, and that deep desire to express himself without feeling like he was lying. He began treating writing not as a structured, serious profession, but as a spontaneous, immediate release. Just look at the handwriting on this slide. It's fast, it's raw, it's real. He describes this new process as leaving notes for someone out in the vast universe. There's no editing, no agonizing over plot points. It's just pure, unadulterated release. Let me walk you through this spontaneous new method he adopted because it's pretty fascinating. Step 1, he'd be traveling and suddenly experience a raw feeling. Step 2, almost like a child checking to see if anyone is watching, he'd quickly pull out his phone and open his Notes app. Step 3, he'd document the exact emotion right then and there. No overthinking it. And step 4, he would immediately post it to Instagram, usually pairing it with a photo he just snapped. He entirely bypassed the publisher, the editor, his own inner critic, and just launched it directly into the void.
In his own words, he was searching for a type of writing that wasn't a poem and wasn't a story. He calls it a picture of the density of that moment in which the kite is flying without a thread. I mean, what a beautiful visual metaphor. He is no longer the storyteller holding the spool, desperately trying to control where the kite goes. He has simply let the string snap. The art flies completely free of the artist's control.
Letting go of the grand, structured narrative allowed Kaul to finally appreciate the tiny, transient miracles of the present moment. He writes about the profound, simple joy of just watching a small bird play in an omelette tree outside his window, or sitting quietly in the dark watching the unbelievably slow entry of morning light creep into his room. By giving up the heavy story of his past, he finally found genuine peace in the raw now. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to take away from this explainer today. Are we missing the reality of the present by constantly trying to script the grand narrative of our lives? Manav Kaul's journey suggests that maybe, just maybe, if we stop forcing our lives into rigid stories and perfectly tied memories, we might finally start living in the beautiful, heartbreaking, and completely transient now. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this amazing material.